lifts right off. Nice. Power's back to about a half, folks. Maybe 2/3 here. We're gonna come by hot, Steve. Here we go. Very smooth. That's at 100%, folks. Power's off. Gonna bring it by gliding here. I tell you, this CG, folks, this is at about 115, right on the forward limit right now. This is the 7,000 pack, or as far back as I could the battery. This is one smooth jet, and man, holy smokes, it really does well, I think, with this CG forward, just flying it around normally. Get it down low. It alphas around that turn. I love it. Yeah, baby. Much more stable, that's for sure. Very nice. Very nice. I like it. Real nice. Hey guys, Rich here. Welcome back to the RCINFORMER YouTube channel, and today I have a complete unboxing, assembly, and setup of probably one of the nicest EDF jets I think I've ever seen or put together. This is coming from Horizon Hobby, folks. This is the E-flite SU-30. This is a one monstrous 6-cell powered airplane that when you get it together, it's 1,600 millimeters front to back. It has twin 70 millimeter fans, runs on a 6-cell pack, has incredible scale detail, retractable landing gear with doors, missiles, has a lighting package all the way around it as well. Beautiful. Look at those landing lights. Look how nice those three are. Wingtip lights and everything. Even has a fantastic speed brake, folks. There's no flaps on this airplane. You just fly it around in high alpha to slow it down. But it has this beautiful speed brake. I'll show you how to set that up in this video. But best of all, folks, is this thing went together with only 12 screws. It's still blowing my mind. I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that we can get such a nice, beautiful model with all the scale details, the rivets, the fit and finish is fantastic. And you can put it together with 12 screws, bind it, and go fly it. So Horizon's really bringing it to us, folks, with this airplane. This is pretty much, to me, the pinnacle of EDF jets nowadays. This is just fantastic how nice this is. And I'm going to be showing you a complete unboxing assembly of this thing. So as you guys get on to watching this, you can watch it front to back. It's going to be relatively lengthy, but for those of you that want to skip around, or you're building the airplane, you want to come back to a certain section, down in the description of this video and in the comments section, I'm going to have a hyperlinked chapter list for everybody. So if you want to go to a specific section, all you got to do is click on that timestamp down in the description, and it'll take you right to that part. So you don't have to use that little slider at the bottom to find something. It'll all be labeled in that sort of chapter list or table of contents I'm going to put there for you guys. Also, we got Instagram and Twitter now, so follow us on Instagram, folks, because there's a lot of cool stuff you guys are probably going to want to see there. We're posting every single day, so go check out our Instagram page. Again, those links for Instagram and Twitter will be down in the description as well. And also, folks, if you guys found this video helpful to you, you guys decide to get one of these from Horizon Hobby, you guys can support our channel by purchasing one through our link. If you click on our link in the description below, put it in your cart and purchase one, you're supporting our channel at no extra cost to you guys, and we do appreciate that. Otherwise, you guys can support us easily by liking, subscribing, commenting to our videos, and sharing them. That always helps us out, folks. We do appreciate that. There is a notification bell in the lower right-hand corner below the video. If you click on that bell, hit the bell. People say smash the bell, hit the bell, whatever. If you click on that, it'll notify you when we put new videos like this out. So also, folks, we will have a lot of flight demos of this airplane. We're going to fly it off grass. We're going to fly it off pavement. Those are all those videos will be available on the RCINFORMER YouTube channel. And in the upper right-hand corner of this video and all of our videos, you see that white circle, the information card. If you click on that right now, it'll actually drop down all the videos in the series on this airplane. As we put them out, we'll be adding them. You can click on that actually right now, and it'll drop down that window of all the videos that we have on this airplane. So not just one video, but several videos on this plane to give you guys as much information and show you guys the airplane flying on grass, on pavement, with the missiles, without the missiles, with different battery packs. And again, that'll all be in the cards in the upper right hand corner. So anyway guys, without further delay, let's get on to the unbox, assembly, and setup of this fantastic model coming from E-flite and Horizon Hobby. To start off the review, we're just going to take a quick look at the outside of the box and go into some of the specs on this airplane. Horizon always has some of the nicest photographs on their boxes, and this is no exception. And this airplane is huge. You can see the size of this box. It's pretty ginormous, and the airplane builds up and gets pretty big when as you build it. It's a big airplane. Great details. Again, the SU-30 twin 70mm, basically two 70mm fans that are pretty much, I think, the same KV and everything as the E-flite F-16 70mm. So we got two of those powering this thing. But this thing gets big. The details are beautiful. You can see some of the scale details, antennas all the way around it, pitot tubes. You can see it's got speed brakes, missiles, the works, and we're going to get into this fully in the box and get into some of the specs. In fact, to start off, we're just going to get here on the side of the box and just kind of get to the nitty-gritty of the specs so we know what we're dealing with here. There's two versions, plug and play if you want to add your own transmitter and receiver, and the bind and fly, which is what I'm going to be showing you guys here today. It's EFL 01050. I'll put the links to that in the description below the video. If you guys want to get one of these, if you do click on our link, purchase it through that, we do get a little commission for that. It supports our channel. We really appreciate that from you guys. And then right here you have all the what's included in the airplane, what's installed, and then down here is what's required to operate it. And you can see right here the motors. I wrote them in here. They're 1850 kV 12 blade 70mm fans pre-installed, 270 amp brushless ESCs installed, 10 digital metal gear servos installed, and the receiver comes with the AR 636 with AS3X and safe. We'll talk about all that. That's installed. And then required, you got to have a 6 to 7 channel DSMX or 2 transmitter, battery anywhere from a 4,000 to a 7,000, which means a 6-cell pack. Of course, this is a 6-cell powered airplane. Really anything that'll fit in there, really, I think this plane will carry with an IC5 or EC5 connector. Of course, you need a charger to charge all that stuff up. So let's zoom back out. We'll take a look at a few more of the pictures on here because they really did a nice job on the photos. You can see how nice this airplane looks. We'll flip it around this way and see if we can see the underside here and some of the pictures. What a fantastic model. Look at this thing. Look at all the details of the pitot tubes, antennas, which we'll talk about in detail. Lights on the wings. Just such an awesome airplane, and it's pretty much glueless. You screw this whole thing together, and we will get into that detail. And of course, there's a little bit of inverted flying there, which we are going to be doing plenty of that in the video. So we'll take a look at a couple more of the specs to give you an idea of the size of this model. You can see right here, it is 64 inches long. It is huge, 1600mm in length with a 43-inch wingspan. And then, of course, just a quick review. SPEKTRUM 6-channel receiver. It has safe technology. It has the AS3X stabilization system. 2 brushless motors, twin 12-blade fans, electric retracts that are fantastic on this thing. We'll get into the detail in the reviews here that I'm making. And then, of course, here, factory installed metal gear servos. Linkages are already installed as well. Lots of scale details and easy assembly. There is a little glue required, but actually I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do instead of using glue on that part. And then just a quick review of the AS3X system that you can see right here. Flight stabilization on the AS3X with safe technology, and safe technology, as they show right here, is really just a pitch and roll limiter and basically self-leveling. So it's really good to use that mode in the event you need it. I'm not going to use it, but I will program it in there and show you guys how to set that up. It's really nice to use as a sort of a safety feature to level the wings and level the pitch and all that. So anyway, with that, folks, we'll put the box aside and we'll get right on into this thing. You can see how nice, again, I'm fully zoomed out. This is a big airplane. everything's packaged in here and really ready to go overall. And we're just going to get right on into this thing and take a look and get all these parts out of here. I had previously used a knife here, folks, and just sort of cut all these off so we could get down into this thing just a little bit easier. And one of the first things I'm going to do is just get some of these smaller parts out. You can see here we've got some missiles here. These just kind of latch on with this little latch mechanism, and we'll talk about that in the video. Here's the nose cone right here with looks like a few screws and the tail push rods and linkages, the tail actually axles or the pivot points for the stabilators. Here's our pitot tube and nose cone ready to go. And then let's get the tail section out. You can see that. We'll just unbox and get everything out of here. A few more missiles over here. We'll pull those out, put those down. We'll get this top piece off. Make sure the tape doesn't stick to anything. Our wing spars right here. We'll get our instruction manual out. We'll get our tail fins. These are our horizontal stabilizers. Really nice full flying tails on this baby, and we'll talk about these in some detail here. We'll take our verticals out. These are all just screw in place as well. Servos, rods, horns, linkages, all installed there and ready to go. I'll slide this over this way a little bit, get this off. Again, I pre-cut these. You do have to be careful taking these out because you can bend or damage your wings if you don't get them out, so just kind of gently take them out, but they're very solid. Again, I'll get the end cap off here, this center section right here. Again, I already cut the tape on these. You just want to make sure you cut everything vertical and horizontal so you don't bend these things when you take them out. You don't want to pry them out of there. But beautiful wing panel overall. I'm going to put this aside over here, and then getting this fuselage out, you have to kind of pull up on this thing just to get this off. You can see they've got padding in there pretty much right where you need it, and very carefully. I don't know what this is stuck to. Let's see if I can get that out of there. It looks like it's attached to something was stuck on there. Probably a little bit of glue there. Here's our kind of lower ventral fins. These are all plastic. Yeah, there's a little bit of foam in them, but these slide right on. I'll put those down. And then the main part, which is really this fuselage, is just simply huge. I'm going to stick my finger in the middle of that thing and kind of, you got to back this out. If you notice on the front, this nose kind of points in. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the nose kind of sticks in here, so you got to kind of lift it up the back out, kind of back it out a little bit, and then get this out. This is a massive, massive piece. This is very similar to an F-14, the way that it's designed with a big flat fuselage. And then I'm going to get this down. Actually, I'm going to put it to the side here because there's actually more under here, folks. You can see here some more padding and some more missiles under here. So we'll get these missiles out. Lots of missiles, lots of bombs. We'll be doing demos with and without the missiles and the bombs. Those are here. And then I'll pick this fuselage up. It's pretty hefty, folks, and you can see it's a pretty darn big model overall. Let me get this box out of the way. And what we're going to do, folks, is you can see the size of this thing. This thing is just simply awesome how big this is. All the motors and everything are in there, landing gears in there. We'll go ahead and lay out all the parts, folks, and we'll take a closer look at everything. Now that I have all the parts laid out for everybody to see here, I can honestly say that my mind has been officially blown. This is probably and may very well be the nicest EDF jet I have ever seen come out of a box. Now, when I fly the thing, I get it together and fly it. I'll comment more on that, but honestly, from what I'm looking at, there may not be a finer EDF jet out there anywhere. This is just simply awesome. You've got the detail, the fit and finish. Just looks fantastic on this thing. Now, you have here in the center the main fuselage. Everything in here is ready to go. Your EDF fans and motors, your speed controllers, your landing gears mounted in there. We're going to get a close look at everything. Nose gear, your receivers in there, all the pitot probes. You can see all the details. Everything's on this. It's painted and ready to go. Your main wing panels, aileron servo and wing and light are mounted. They're ready to just be plug in your servo connection, 4 screws, and the wing spar here, and it's done. Your stabilators here, they go in with a little bit of hardware here. You see the hardware package. They've got their pivot axles they pivot off of because they're a full flying stab. They just screw on. You got your verticals right here. Those just screw on, and there's just a connection that you make right there. And then as far as details go, you've got missiles. You've got rockets, missiles. There's 8 of them. There's 5 here. I put 3 on this wing. And then you have your instruction manual, and that's it, folks. This is pretty darn sweet. So to kind of start off with this thing, I'm going to just show it to you all as best and easiest as I can. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the nose cone off. Nose cone off is real straightforward. I just lost one of my magnets that's stuck on here. They went ahead and they actually taped it in place, and it came off, and I taped it back on. So I'm probably going to need a little tape just to stick that thing back on. I'm going to put it to the side here, but for now it's not really a big deal. But you can see the quality of the nose cone and how it goes on just with those two magnets there. There's two on the other side, and then you can see the quality of the pitot tube. Look how nice this thing is, and it comes assembled, but look, it unscrews, which is really nice. It's probably, I probably would have liked to have seen them make this out of rubber, because I'll probably break this, but look at that, metal threads. Just super nice, nice attention to detail. Again, you can take this off, but probably when you transport it, you're just going to pull the whole nose cone off anyway, but just super awesome how nice that is. And then I'm going to slide this thing. Guys, this is a monstrous airplane. I'm going to actually slide this as best as I can without dinging anything here. I'm going to pick it up and show you a couple other parts that I actually put on the airplane just for the purposes of this this demo here. And I'm going to grip this as best I can, hopefully without dropping it here. But you can see this tail piece. I have to use a leg to hold this up. This tail piece is really nice. This is the only part that's actually meant to be glued on. You can see down in here there's a big tail weight, because this plane, you see that big weight down in there. You can see right there. It's obviously some extra tail weight to balance the airplane out. Because there's normally two big engines and we just have light fans in there. But look at the detail of this tail piece right here. Look at the antennas, the detailed stickers and everything. And again, this is meant to be glued on, contact cement or foam safe CA. I am probably going to put some rare earth magnets on this so I can remove it, because you can see how far this thing sticks out beyond the back of the airplane, and making the air, transporting this will be a little tougher with this appendage sticking out. So I will probably put this on with rare earth magnets, and we'll talk about that during the assembly guide when I get to that, the assembly section here. And then another piece, two more pieces that I actually put on that were in the box were these ventral fins. They just kind of slide around on. They're mostly made of plastic. You can see how easy they come off. There's foam on this side, but you can see it's just a big old plastic part that you slide on here with these latches. They are side specific, so you've got to get the right one on, then slide it back, and it's in place. And you can see the two of them on there, just really, really sweet overall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take them off for the purposes, let me slide this one off, of showing you guys this airplane, because it is pretty massive. I'm going to put it down sort of on the ground here with the tail on the ground, because it's so big. The tail cones are plastic, so they're very tough. But you can see your magnets up front once again where your nose cone goes on. This is probably a camera package of some sort. And the cockpit and the canopy is just awesome. This is going to be a challenge to show you this, folks, because it's just so massive here with my little tripod setup. But check out the details. Look at that decal they put on there. Look at those pitot tubes, how nice those are. There's your gun port there. More pitot tubes on that side, and then your speed brake, which is electric, and we'll hook that up and I'll show it to you. But look at the fit and the finish of this thing. Look at those panel lines all the way down. There's some rivets in there. Not that jets have a whole lot of rivets, but look at the detail on that. I'm going to go all the way down to the back here, and I'm kind of running out of space here because there's just so much stuff in the way, and this thing is so massive. But look at the paint on there on those engines. They made them sort of almost like a copper look, so you could see the metal of the engines that they heat up, and you can kind of just see that detail they put in. But super awesome. You can see here on the back, this is where your vertical fins plug in. They just screw into place with some screws, and then your horizontal stabilizers plug in back here. Your axles for them. Here's your servos for your elevators. But look at the underside of this thing. You got lots of cheater holes there. Look at that. So lots of air can come in there. Your speed controllers, those are all cooled there with some openings there. And then an access panel on the underside to get into the underside, to get into those speed controllers. And the intakes, you can see they go down in there. I can't really get a full view of those because, like I said, this thing is so massive. And then on the front here, let me flip it around real quick. This is massive, folks. It's kind of almost like it's very hard to do this on this camera this way. But look at the front of this thing. Your nose gear is already mounted in there. The door is all set up. It has the sort of this over-center brace right here that will extend outward. I'm going to go ahead and open up the nose gear door for everybody to look at this thing. This is really impressive. You can see it has this little flat plate here that is sort of a door stopper, stops it from going in. It has some ventilation here to let a little air in, but look at the exquisite detail of that nose strut. Really nice overall. Look at this. It has this little guard here. This is probably a spray diverter for water or something, or for snow or fog on the runways and stuff. And then you can see down here you've got your nose wheel steering servo right here and linkage. You've got your door servo way down in there, and all machined aluminum strut. Just fantastic. And again, that over center that sort of extended gear brace that you can see here, it's all made out of metal. Just really sweet overall. And then there's landing lights. You can't see them here. We'll extend them at the end of the video, but you can see there's 3 landing lights here. 1, 2, 3. Just scale, just like the full scale airplane is. Just absolutely an awesome nose gear overall. As we get to the front of this thing, you can see cooling holes up front. Brings air in over the battery compartment, and then that cools the battery down. And then you can see here antennas here, just super nice. Look at the detail on that. I'm just blown away, folks. This is pretty sweet. And then probably a first, that actually looks, these look like jig slots actually for spars. So there's probably carbon spars running through the fuselage as well to keep this thing kind of tough. And here's an underside view. You can see there's spots here for your big missiles there. They just latch right on so you can fly with or without the missiles. And then you can see your landing gear slots right here. They're already mounted, and they have these huge plastic doors that open up, and you can see right here this big plastic fitting. This is all one big plastic wing fitting here. Your spar tube goes right through here. You can see it down there. And then your wing just plugs right in. It looks like it's got a single plug in it. You just unplug, you stick it in. It's actually sticking out of the wing. We'll show you that when we get to that. And then here's probably your mechanism for your gear door. Probably press that and it opens up. We'll talk about that. We'll show you that towards the end of the video when I get this thing assembled. We'll extend and retract the gear, but my Lord, look at the fittings. Look how nice this whole plastic section is along here, where that accepts your wing and everything. Just simply awesome. We'll get down in there. You can see the 12-blade fans down in there with the in-runner motor, so it's going to scream with in-runners in there. You can see your weight back there once again. But just simply outstanding. I'm dying to hook up this Speedbrake and see that operate. But now to get inside to the canopy area, to get inside to the battery area, it's pretty simple. There's a tongue and groove in the front and just a latch. Very nice latch mechanism. You can see how nicely that secures in place. I'm going to pull this out carefully, and we'll take a look at some of the detail. There's a pilot there. He's got his oxygen on, so he's all ready to go. There's 2 pilot areas there, a pilot and an observer. You got some cooling holes in there to get some heat out so you don't bubble the inside of the canopy in hot conditions. And then you can see these spar slots, these spar jigs. There's actually a jig hole here, 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 and here. There's 4 of them, 8 of them along there. Because you can see this canopy is so long and so thin that they put carbon spars or something. Yeah, you can see one of the spars right there. You can see them sticking out. So it's a real rigid canopy because even the canopy's got spars. Just really nice construction. And then let me maneuver this a little better and we can look on the inside of this. Just a fantastic battery compartment. Again, we saw our holes under there, our wood floor with holes so the air can get up through those, pass over the battery, over your receiver, your AS3X receiver, and then through the back as well. Looks like there's some cooling exhaust here in the nose port to get the air out as well. And then let's see, there's Velcro down here, folks. So you can use your Velcro on your battery. I'll probably put my standard shelf liner floor down there so you guys can check that out. I'll talk about that in the assembly. Looks like we do have an EC5 connector for all of our big batteries. Again, we're looking at 5,000 to 7,000 milliamps on the pack. Let's get in on that AS3X. You can see that's ready to go. It looks like, I don't know what this is. This may be the bind port, but everything's filled up. You got your rubber glue there holding your AS3X in place, and that's all secured and ready to go, folks. It's pretty awesome. This might be the bind. Yeah, this is probably the bind right here, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll read that. I'll get into that as I build it. And then also down here, you've got one antenna here, and you've got another one running along here. This one's flailing around a little. I'll secure that a little tighter. We'll talk about that in the assembly, but just awesome overall. These details, fit and finish. I mean, this is pretty spectacular. We'll get the canopy back on, tongue and groove in the front, latch the canopy down. And wow, folks, just simply awesome. I think I've covered just about all of it. I am dying to get this one together and get this one out flying. It's just awesome. The fit, the finish, the quality of this thing is just absolutely top notch. So let's see if I can get this down without breaking it. Again, the tail cones are plastic, so they're nice and tough, so you can maneuver that part fairly well and get this down. When this goes together, this is going to be a huge airplane. Next up, let's just look at one of the wings. Both wings are about the same. There's your spar slot, so you've got your main wing spar that you just plug through the fuselage. You attach both wings on, one on each side, and then you've got 4 screws that you join these with. Here, there's 2 here, and there's 1 here and 1 here, 2 on each wing. And then here's your aileron connection. It's not an actual plug. Maybe they had some issues with that. All you have to do is just take this plug. It's not like a wireless thing. You just have to plug this right into that port that we saw there, and your wing is in position, ready to go. Beautiful plastic fittings. Take a look at these things, how nice these plastic edges are. Very nice molds, very nice fittings. Panel lines, access panels, rivets. Just simply awesome all the way around. We get out to the wing. You can see we have a light right there. This whole wingtip missile rail, that baby's plastic as well. And I went ahead and I put some missiles on it just so you guys can see them on there. It's really this simple. In fact, I'll pull them off. It's this simple to get them on and off. You just literally pull it forward and take it off. I'll get the other one off of there. That just slides right off. Pull it forward, take it off. You can fly with or without the missiles. You know, without the missiles, you'll get more speed, more flight time, but it's also harder to slow down. So pull that forward and get that off. And with the missiles on, a little more drag, a little less flight time, but the airplane will slow down for you quicker. But simply awesome. Looks like we have spar slots running along here. So there's a main spar running here along the leading edge, and then the actual main spar is right here that joins the 2 wing halves together. Rod, horn, and linkage. Already installed and ready to go. Sometimes it's not a bad idea just to check those 2 screws here. Don't over tighten them, just make sure they're snug. Make sure the linkage isn't moving. Sometimes you only need like maybe a half turn if they're a little bit loose, but it looks good overall. Submerged hinge all the way around. There's no flaps on this airplane, I don't think. It's just going to be aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, flaps, and gear, and speed brake probably. So, but beautiful hinge work all the way around. Look how nice that is. Nice, nice missile rail slots. Let me go ahead and get these back on. Just show you once again how easy it is to get the missiles on and off this airplane. Here we go. We just kind of slide that on, and that is it. Voila, it's done. You just put them on real easily like that. Here, I'll secure this one in place. Yeah, I'm pretty floored. Now, the wingtip missiles, actually one comment I do want to make here, they are side specific. See, it says left and right. So the other ones I didn't see an L or R on them or anything, so I think it's just the wingtip missiles that are side specific. So we'll pop this thing in place, slide it back, and that is it, folks. Absolutely exquisite. Just fantastic design on this thing, and everything fits beautifully. Paint job's nice. Just A+++ here all the way around. Let's take a look at one of the horizontal stabilizers, the flying tails, and we'll look at one of the verticals together. Starting off with the horizontal. Look at the rivets. Look how nice that is. We'll flip this thing over. You can see you've got spar slots or jig holes right here for one spar running this way, just like the wing, and then the main one running this way, and they probably maybe even join together there in the middle. And then there's your hinge point for your axle or your pivot point for your flying tail, because this is a full flying tail, no horizontal stabilizer and elevator. It's a full-on flying tail. Really nice with the detail of this kind of actuator slot that fits in the back. That's pretty darn cool. Of course, there's your ball link that we're going to connect this thing to, and we're going to connect that to the elevator servo that we saw down underneath. And then the verticals, really nice. Once again, submerged style hinge. You can see how this thing moves. They did a beautiful job. These Sukhois have like a change in the hinge line from here to here. It has kind of a little bend right here, but they managed to work through that with this model, and it's really nice. You can see how it turns inside that slot. It's just fantastic. Look at the finish on this thing. Look at the fit, the panel lines, decal application, super nice all the way around. I maybe would have liked to have seen a couple lights on the tail, but you know, this model is just awesome just to begin with. I mean, it's just pretty incredible. Lots of good plastic. Again, big plastic doubler fitting up front where the screw goes on. There's one screw there, and I think there's one that goes through the side. You literally just take this and you push it vertically straight down into these two slots, and then two screws kind of going from the side, and you're done. Your connection is already made right here by this. This just plugs right into that little slot right there, and the vertical is on. So you can see, folks, this is all screwed together. Again, the only thing we've seen that glues on is the tail section, this little tail cone deal. So we'll put this down here. We'll put these away. And I think we've seen just about everything. Last thing we really need to look at is just the instruction manual here. You can see these are the axles. These babies, I believe, are steel. They're pretty tough. And then you have these sort of wheel collars, but these are model specific. You can see they have that beautiful flat spot there with an Allen head or a what is it, a set screw that hooks on. So these are some tough stabilizer axles, and you can see just a handful of screws, 2 rods, and a bind plug, and that's it for assembly, folks. So pretty darn sweet overall. And then last but not least, folks, is the instruction manual. Not that you need it on this thing. I think this thing's pretty simple, but just like a lot of the other E-flite models, it pretty much starts off the same way. Quick start information to set your transmitter up, aileron elevator rates and travels, expos, which I'll probably leave mine out. Obviously this doesn't need too much expo if it's 5 and 10%. And then your CG range, which is pretty darn critical. Then they show here all the parts that we just talked about, pretty straightforward. And then again, the size. This is massive, folks, 64 inches long, 43 inches wide. And then I put there 1850 kV motors and 80 amp speed controller. So, and then flipping the page here, this is the full-on transmitter setup here. Dual rates of 170, and then since I'm going to be using a DX9 right here, it's 1 aileron and 1 flap because it's a flapless airplane. It just doesn't need them. It flies like a delta wing, and you slow it down in high alpha to get it slow. And then servo setup shows to reverse the flap, and then they show the switch D for the flap positions. There's 0, there's a takeoff and a landing setting. Safe select switch designation, we'll talk about that. This is if you're setting up transmitter on your DS6 or 6E, which you can do. And then they talk about the canopy going on, pretty simple. The verticals going on, you can see how basic this is. Once the verticals are in place, you have 4 screws to get them on. And then your horizontal, put your axle on first. You put your horizontals on, your flying tails, and they show that really cool lock collar right there we talked about, and just putting those on. Again, screw together plane, folks. Your wing, your main spar goes all the way through the fuselage. You put your wings on, you make your connections. 4 screws right there. You can see I highlighted this already, of course. There's your lower kind of ventral fins underneath. We talked about those. That's pretty simple. See how nice, again, just to get a close-up. The plastic on this is so nice, and the inside is just a little bit of foam to keep the weight down on this thing. So very nice parts. You can see those just pop into place. There's the detail on it. Pretty straightforward overall. And then the nose cone, that was the first thing we talked about. And they talk about the cone installation here with a little bit of glue. Once again, folks, I'm going to use a little, I'm going to use some rare earth magnets. I think I've seen some guys do that, and I'll talk about that in the assembly. So, and then your missiles, rockets. They go on or off whether you want to fly them or not. So, and I think that might be about it. There's maybe a couple things in here. CG, once again, 115 to 150, we'll talk about that. As we fly the airplane, this is your setup, your binding with safe select mode on, so you can have it on a switch. Safe select off, so you don't have a switch, and it just gives you the stabilization without the safe mode. This one gives you the safe mode. We'll talk about that in the assembly and setup. And then they go into flight controls, outer holes on everything, and then setting up your control surface centering here and some of the positioning. We'll talk about that probably as we assemble it. But that's really it, folks. One more thing, in-flight trimming. Hold it for 3 seconds while you're trimming the plane, hands off, and let everything neutralize. Let the servos center, and then you'll have full range up and down, left and right, and all that. So, but anyway, really stellar airplane, folks. This is just outstanding. This thing does not need an assembly guide, but just to put it together, we're going to go through it now, and I'm going to go through each phase and show you guys how simple this airplane is to assemble. Assembling the Sukhoi is pretty darn simple. I'm going to actually do mine a little bit out of order, and I'm going to show you the hardest part to assemble first, which is this this tail piece here. It's meant to just be glued in here. You can use foam safe CA or foam tack, but I've decided to actually use what's available, and you can notice right in here there's actually a pretty big steel weight in there. It's a tail weight, I'm assuming, you know, just because the airplane probably needs some weight. So what I went ahead and did is, and I think other guys have done this, but I just decided to do this myself. What I did is, instead of gluing this all in place, putting glue all over this surface and then just kind of gluing this thing in permanently, it sticks pretty far out beyond the model, makes transporting it harder. So what I did is I went ahead and I put my own rare earth magnet in here. Now, foam tack's probably the best thing to use for that. I just went ahead and carved mine out with a hobby knife right here, just countersunk it and made it roughly flat with the top front surface of this thing. Put some foam tack on the magnet, put some foam tack in there, got it all tacky, and then glued it in. And let it dry overnight. That's really important. You got to let this thing dry overnight. If you don't let it dry overnight, this magnet attached to that piece of metal is strong enough to pull this right out of the foam. So you have to really let that foam tack up and dry. And then once you do that, it's kind of easy. You just slide this in place, and you can see that magnet will hold it in place quite nicely. Here's just one more view from the top side, and you can see how easy this thing is to install after putting a magnet on there. It really attaches quite nicely. It's on there pretty tough. And I'll talk about this a little more during the flight demo if I have any issues with this. If I need to, I may add some more magnets along here or along the bottom. But I decided to just go with the one, and let's see how it does during the flight demos. And if I have a problem, I'll talk about that more. If I make any changes, I'll talk about that more during the flight demo. But for now, it looks like we have a really nice secure tail cone that I can now remove from the airplane to transport it, so I'm not tearing this thing off, and it will fit now in a smaller space with this tail cone off. The next step here is just to simply install the vertical stabilizers. You can see I put one on already. This is about as nice of an assembly as it gets. You can see we've got our connector right there. All we're going to do really is just sort of plug this in. There's a plug-in right down here. There's a plug-in right down here, and then you can see where the two screws go in. So once I plug this thing in, our rudder connection is made. It actually just is already plugging in right there. It's connected. And then the next thing I do is just take two of these screws. They're just 16 millimeter socket screws, 3 millimeter screws actually, 16 millimeter in length. And we're going to push that in and screw it in position. It's pretty darn sweet. We'll get that one in there. We'll go to the next one. I'll put that in place. This one takes a little bit of reaching. You got to kind of push forward a little bit, but then you can feel it thread. And that is it, folks. It really doesn't get any sweeter than that for an installation, and both of the verticals are now installed. The next part of assembly is just getting the flying tail on, and you can see I already put one side on, and I gotta say this is the nicest tail assembly I've seen on a foam model. You can see how well it works. You just install it, put the rod on, and you're good to go. So we'll get the other assembly on here on the other side, and I'll show you how that fits. It's just a really, really nice arrangement overall, and it really has to be seen to be appreciated. In fact, here's the shaft that this thing rotates on, and you can see how well it is machined, and it's nicely made out of steel. It has a proprietary, just custom wheel collar here that has its own flat on it. So it's idiot proof, it's very precise, it fits very well, and you can see in here it has the not only a flat spot but a divot in there that fully accepts and fully locks this thing into place. You can just see how nicely that attaches on, and it tightens in place after we get this whole thing on. So the first thing we need to do really is just install this pin and or this axle shaft, and all we do with this thing is we just slide it right down in this hole, and then once we get it all the way down there, we have to sight down into that hole, and we'll see that thing come through there. And once those two holes line up, all we're going to do is put a screw down in there into that nice machine thread, and all it is just again, it's a 3 millimeter metric, it's a 2 millimeter socket head, it's beveled, and it's only about 10 millimeters long. So all we have to do is just kind of drop that down into the hole, which I have a hard time seeing with the camera here. We'll get that in, I'll rotate that into place. We can kind of see it from the angle. and it's a positive feed in there. You might have to move this around a little bit to get it to kind of lock in, and then once you get it locked in, you can feel it biting those threads, and it's in there nice and tight. That is a pretty solid tail arrangement overall, probably the best I've seen. It's got lots of support here, it's got lots of plastic here to hold it on, and you can see how much sticks out and how much is in there. It's very solid. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the wheel collar, the collar that goes in, and this is a little bit of a shoehorn to get this in, but it's a very nice fit. What you have to do is you have to also make sure that this little mechanism here, which is probably the real actuator on the full-scale airplane, and you have to make sure, as I lift this up you can see, you have to make sure it fits into that little notch right there, which really is pretty cool how that fits in. So you have to put this thing on its shaft first, lift it up a little bit until it goes into that notch, and at the same time that you're actually doing that, you have to get the wheel collar in. So I'm going to go ahead and take the wheel collar and put that in where it goes. We'll slide that into place, and then the whole thing just kind of fits on, and it really fits nice and tight like a glove. Once you get this in enough, you get that unit on the other side, that, like I said, the actual actuator, you get that lined up, you rotate this, and then this thing will fit right in. It's kind of idiot proof. It fits right into that detent, and then once you have that thing in place, that's it, folks. This whole thing is in position. You can see how nicely this thing moves. If it scrapes a little up here, which I noticed on the other one it kind of did a little bit, you may have to use a tiny bit of sandpaper right on this edge just to make sure that it's not binding up there or anything. I noticed this side's touching just a little bit, so there also is a counterweight right in here that you do have to be careful for, and as you sand that flat, you may have to do it a little bit just to make this thing clear. And then once we're done putting that on, all that we have to do left is really just put the ball link on. I would recommend using a set of ball link pliers. It's something that this thing has very tight ball links, so if you do have a set of ball link pliers, it's probably really the way to go. And you can just kind of snap this thing in position here. Let me lock this in, get it to snap on. There it is, and that's it, folks. The flying tail is completely installed, and just a really overall nice fit and finish. Since we're at the underside of the model, I figured I'd show you how these fins go on. Really simple. The nice thing is you can take them off. Once you put them on, you can take them off. They are side specific. You can see that this thing has a pretty cool beveled edge to it, and one side goes on, the side with the plastic goes on the outside, the side with the foam goes on the inside. So all that is needed or required of these things is just to kind of put them on and slide them back, and that is it. Your lower ventral fins are in position. One thing to note as well, isn't it nice that you can take the tail cone off, so I'm not constantly knocking it and beating it up. So it's definitely a nice feature with this plane that you can take this off if you put a magnet in there. And since I'm flipping this over and I'm dealing with the wings right now, I am going to take these off, and it's really nice, folks, to be able to take some of these things off of this airplane. So easy when you transport it. In fact, transporting this airplane, these fins will be off of it. They'll probably be in the cockpit, and that way you can lay this thing on its belly, and that's fantastic for transporting an airplane like this, is just being able to lay it flat. But with these things sticking out, you can't do it. But thanks to Horizon, with this really nice design with these little locks, we can pull these things off, lay this thing flat, and transport it nicely. The last part of assembly is just getting your two wings on. I went ahead and put the other wing on already, but all it consists of really is just taking your main spar here, sliding it all the way in position. You can see here I did get the other wing on already. It only takes 2 screws. It's a really nice arrangement that they have here. And what I'm going to do is, as I work around my camera here, I'll show you how easy this thing goes on. The wing is beautiful. This thing fits on just fantastic. All we're going to do really is just take this thing, just line it up with the main wing spar. I'm probably going to have to move my stand just a tiny bit. We'll line that up, just kind of slide it into position here, and then we're going to make one connection. You have your aileron, and you have your lights kind of co-located on this little micro Y harness they have here, which is super nice. And we're just going to plug this in. We'll stick this in the fitting here. Let me get it the correct way here. Once I get that in place, we're going to go ahead and very carefully just push that in place. You got to get your hand down in there, and when it snaps in, there it is. It locked in beautifully. Now we're just going to get the rest of this in here. We just tuck our wires away. There's a little slot here. There's a little wing channel right in here. We'll get these in place, tucking them down in there, and then we can ease this in. There's a beautiful arrangement here where there's just there's a slot right here that fits right in. It's a perfect fit. They really did a nice job with the molds on this airplane. And then this tab right here is also going to slide in. So you can see how nice that all goes in place. And then there's just 2 screws, folks. 3mm by 16 in length. Once again, 2mm socket. That's all you need. Drop one in there. Drop one in there, and then if you can squeeze the 2 of these together just to get those holes to line up a little bit, because it is a very tight fit and it's nice. It's great having a tight fitting plane like this. That screw is in place. They're going into metal threads. I'll push on the edge of the wing here just to kind of squeeze the 2 of these together to make sure the threads line up with the screw. And you can see it's biting into that thread, and that is it, folks. That is it for the major construction of this airplane. Now the last step of assembly, which is optional, is just putting the missiles on and so forth. We already seen the nose cone go on a couple of times already. You can see how nice that just goes on with magnets. And this thing grows up. It gets really big as we go along. And there's a lot of missiles and bombs. So you can fly with these or without them or whatever. They're not side specific except for the wingtip missiles. You can see this one says right, the other one says left. And I'm going to go ahead and walk around this, and you can see this is how they go on there. It's real simple. These just kind of slide right on in place. You put that in place and lock it in there. It goes back just a little bit. There it is. And then the biggest missile goes on the inside here. I don't even know if these center missiles, rockets or whatever, I don't even know if those will go on there with the landing gear. It almost looks like they're too tall, but you know, we'll mess with it out the field. We'll fly this thing clean for everybody, and we'll fly it dirty with all the ordnance on it and all that. But look at the load out of this thing, and just look at the sheer size. This is just, when you get this thing together, it's just sort of a massive airplane, and you find yourself you know, more or less walking around the thing. But it's all done, folks. It is big, it's beautiful, and it fits together perfectly. Now that the airplane is fully assembled, it is time to bind and fly. What we're going to do is select a new model memory in here and give it a name. You can see here, model 47. I named it E-flite SU-30 70mm. We're going to go all the way down to the system menu, second from the bottom, click it. We're going to go into here where it says disable RF, yes. I'll select that, and then we're going to go to aircraft type, which is essentially the wing type. So we're going to scroll our wheel right down to the wing type here, press the button, and we're going to go and we are going to select 1 aileron and 1 flap. Now we don't have flaps on the airplane, but we do have a fancy speed brake on the back, and one of the functions of flaps is not only to change the camber of the airplane, allow it to fly slower, and get the nose down so you can see the runway better, but flaps also slow the airplane down just like a speed brake does. So I think what we're going to do, and we'll talk about this during the flight demo more, but we're going to use the flap switch for the speed brake, and I think that's how it was intended to be. Again, we'll talk about that more during the flight. So now that we have that set up, we'll go back to the main menu here. We'll turn the radio off, and we'll get this thing bound up, and we're going to bind this using the safe mode feature. So what we have to do for that is just plug our bind plug in. Let me tuck this down here so it doesn't block our light when that comes on, and then we'll get the battery plugged in with the radio off here. We'll get this in place. There it is. We got our flashing light. Now that it's flashing, we're going to remove our bind plug so we can bind it in safe mode, and then taking our button here and pressing our bind button and then turning our transmitter on and then moving it a little bit of ways away, we'll let it get bound up.
DSMX 22 milliseconds. Telemetry. Bind complete.
And there's our light that'll come on. Our flight controls are going through 2 checks, which they just did, and that indicates now that we are bound in the safe mode. And we can release our button here, and we can see everything's all bound up. We can check our flight controls, elevators, rudder, make sure everything's working well, even our throttle, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Probably the very next thing to do, which is pretty smart, is to go to Throttle Cut. And what we're going to do is go to that menu, go to the inhibit wheel, and select a switch for it. Now you can see here, instead of inhibit, I'm going to go ahead and select a switch for it, G. This is the switch I like to use for my throttle cut, and I like to have it on up here. So use whatever switch that you want to use for it. And what we're going to do is figure out which one of these. Right now the throttle is not working in black, okay? So I want it to be working there. So I'm going to go and change that over and make the other two black, okay? So in this mode, in this switch position, I should have power, and in the others I won't, okay? And that's my safety switch, because normally when I fly, for me, I fly with my finger on that switch all the time, so I know I'm not going to hit it in flight, and that's the kind of switch you want to choose. But get your throttle cut set up so you don't mistakenly launch your airplane off your workstation while you're going through all this setup process. Next up, we want to assign our safe mode switch. Now I don't need a safe mode, but I'm going to assign it anyway just because I like to demo it in the videos, and if I ever need it, I have it on there. And what I'm going to do is take both of our sticks here. We're going to move them to the inner lower position of both, and then this is the switch I'm going to use for safe select. I'm going to cycle it 5 times, and when I do that, you'll get a little flight control twitch, and what that means is that your safe mode is now assigned to this switch, and that's it. We're all done with assigning our safe mode. Now in the lower, when you use a 3-position switch, in your middle and lower positions, those are safe mode off. All the way up is actually safe mode on, and you can tell the difference when you get a little elevator twitch, because in safe mode, when you push it up there, it's trying to right the airplane, it's trying to level it a little bit, and with the airplane nose down, you can tell right now the airplane is a little nose down in my stand, and when I push that up, it's actually putting up elevator to bring the nose of the airplane up, and that's how you can tell which it is. So just in review, the lower and middle positions are usually safe mode off, and the upper position is safe mode on. One little cleanup item I like to do to my airplanes where the antennas are jumbled is to get them 90 degrees to each other. That really helps to minimize the chance of a potential signal loss. And I noticed this airplane, along with other E-flite airplanes, that this side antenna just seems to kind of be curved and sitting there. And curved antennas do not receive nearly as well as antennas that actually are straight. So what I did is I just punched a little hole in the side of the fuselage right here in the foam, and just stuck the tip of that antenna in there, so it's now nice and straight. And then the other antenna here, you can see I taped it along here. It actually came with some tape that was coming off, and then I took a little bit of 3M blender, and you can see right here, and then just ran this other antenna, the tip of it, right along here. Now you can see this one's running along the longitudinal axis, this one's running along the lateral axis. They're pretty much exactly 90 degrees to each other, so that will minimize, again, any potential chance of a signal loss, and just really make the whole airplane much, much safer. The airplane's battery compartment comes with a piece of Velcro that's pretty well secured with adhesive to the battery floor, and then of course there's this piece of Velcro stuck to it that you can peel off, and you can just apply that to your battery. If you guys like using that method, use it. It works really well. It's nice. However, if you guys have seen my videos, you know I'm not a huge fan of Velcro. I just like to keep Velcro off my batteries, and instead I use shelf liner. And you can see here I cut a custom piece here of shelf liner, and I lined the bottom of it with double-sided Scotch tape, as you can see right here. And once you have that ready to go, it's really ready to be applied. And the best thing about using this shelf liner is it's very sticky and very grippy on your battery, and it doesn't use up a lot of space. It'll keep your battery from sliding around. Again, this is an option, folks. You don't need to do this, but this is how I like to set up my battery trays. Again, to keep the Velcro off of my battery. So now I had already, prior to this, just peeled this away. You can peel this off. It's on there pretty tough. It might take a little bit of the wood off, but not a big deal, and you can just kind of discard that. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply our shelf liner here. We're going to go ahead and put this down into position as best we can. I'm going to stick my head down in there so I can do this better than if I wasn't, but we'll get this lined up on there as best we can without putting my head in front of the camera. If I can try to avoid it. And we'll get this thing secured down by pressing it down pretty firmly in position. Now that we've got the shelf liner really firmly pressed down, especially here in the front section where there's these sort of ventilated cooling slots, I'm going to take a very sharp hobby knife here, use a brand new blade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the edge of the wood here as a guide and just sort of run this thing kind of along there as best I can. I'll try not to block the camera, but you can see here just kind of using the wood as a guide and running this thing down that wood, you'll be able to cut a really nice kind of a streamlined slot in there, and then you can pull this out, and that way you can have your grippy floor without blocking your cooling hole. So I'll do the other one. You can see how quick it is. It's pretty easy to do, especially if you have a sharp knife. If you don't have a sharp knife, it makes this kind of like a lot harder to do. So just kind of use a new blade when you're doing it. I'll see if I can get on this side and go around down to this side, and you can see it comes out there pretty nicely. I'm going to stick my head in the way for just a second here. I'll probably block the whole camera when I'm doing this, but you can see the end product here is pretty nice once you get done. You have a nice grippy floor all the way around, and you don't block your cooling holes. Now, keep in mind, folks, again, this is not necessary. This is just something I like to do to my battery floors, again, to keep Velcro off the batteries, and it really keeps the batteries nice and in place, and it's neat and clean if you do it right. Now, with everything plugged in, it's time to get the speed brake working. This is not a variable speed brake. It's just either up or it's down, and we're going to assign it to the flap switch, just as though it was part of, actually as if it was the flap system. So what we're going to do first, per the instructions, is we're going to go into servo setup, and we're going to reverse that channel. And this is per the instructions, and it should work out pretty nice. So via the flap menu here, I'm going to go ahead and reverse that via the reverse menu, I should say. And then we're going to go down into the flap system, and we're going to assign a switch. So now that it's an inhibit, I'm going to go ahead and light up the box so it's flashing. I'll go ahead and I'll assign, you can see here, my flap switch to it. I'll press the button, so that's position or switch D, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to assign these to their positions the way the manual says. So in the upper position of the switch, you can see I have it right there. The upper position, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to 100%. We're just setting sort of the upper and lower limits of these things. So we'll get that to 100%. There we go. And then I'll go to position 2 right here. And we don't actually have to flip the switch to that, but let's go to minus 100, just like the manual says. We'll go all the way over there, and we'll see if it all works out. It should work out just fine. So we'll activate that. Now, let's see if when I go to put my flap switch, my normal flap switch down, I should get speed brake, and there we go. It comes right out. I'll go ahead and retract it. Now, you don't have to use this switch. You can assign it to any switch that you're comfortable with. But for me, I'm going to use it as I'm used to normally using flaps. So when I put my flap switch down, I get flaps down, I get extra lift, I get extra drag, and it helps slow the airplane down. So as I do that, essentially deploying the speed brake is going to basically do the same thing. And that's really, this whole thing is really just that easy to set up. The next thing we want to do is set up our dual rates, and of course make sure all our flight controls are centered and they're moving, everything's moving in the proper direction. And all we're really going to do is just go right here and do a dual rates. I'm not going to use any expo on mine. I will go ahead and I will assign my aileron and my elevator expo on separate switches. That's how I like to do it. You can use a single switch if you want to, but for aileron right here, I'm going to go ahead and press the button. I'm going to go to aileron. I'm going to go down to where it says switch, and I'm going to assign my aileron to this switch, which is switch F. And then what we're going to do simply is in high rate, it's going to stay at 100, and in the mid and low, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put 70 and everything. So we'll have 100 at high, 70 at low, and I have to change, if I have to change that, I'll go down to the lower position. While we fly, I'll do that then, but for now, it's literally going to be let's see, 70, there it is, and for the two lower positions, and then 100 for the high. I'm going to go back here up to elevator. We'll do the same thing here. I'll go down to the switch, I'll highlight it, I'll go ahead and move my switch. I like to use this one for elevator because I want to be able to change my elevator rate without taking my my hands off the stick. So I'll go ahead and I'll switch that to assign it, and then in the upper position is 100, and then in the lower positions, once again, we will put 70 in there. That's the mid, and this is the lower, so I'll get that back down to 70, and no, that's 69, and then there's 70. So I have my aileron right here, I have my elevator rate on this side, and you can kind of get an idea here of what the rates do when you change them. That's full, and that's at 100%, and then that's down at 70. Again, make sure everything's centered, make sure everything's moving in the proper direction, and then we should be good to go. With all the flight controls centered, as you can see right here, like with your aileron, your rudders, they're all going to be nice and straight. The one caveat is setting up the elevator. As you can see here, they show the neutral position here to be 2 degrees, or 2 millimeters I should say, below this little plastic part. And as you can see right here, I've talked to a few people and they said this setup actually works out pretty darn good. But you can see I'm pretty much mimicking the picture right here, about 2 millimeters below that little horizontal line, and you can see that little area there that looks like that was meant to be the centering point. It just kind of chops off that corner there, and you can see the same thing as here. We're kind of chopping off that corner, and we're about 2 millimeters below that plastic part. And when we do that, that should be the neutral position, and we'll talk more about that when we actually get out to the field and fly in the plane. Now the last item of setup I want to go over is all the E-rings on the landing gear, especially the nose wheel. And you can see here, there's a whole ton of these E-rings everywhere, and if you lose one, you can lose the axle. So you want to get some foam tack and put on here. Now I already did this hub. If you put it on messy, just wet your finger and just kind of put it on there, and it won't stick to your wet finger. But you want to make sure you put it on all of these E-rings right here. Just kind of glob it on around there. There's not one on the other side on these, but on the other side of the wheel, no, there isn't one on the other side of the wheel. But you want to make sure you get them all over this stuff. And again, if it gets on there kind of messy and it's kind of sticking out at you, just wet your finger and just kind of stick your finger on there, and it won't stick to your finger. But this will ensure that you're not going to lose all these E-rings, okay? And if you do need to remove it, you can just kind of peel this stuff away. The main gear is also pretty much the same way. I'm going to kind of zoom over there and hopefully get lucky here. You can see there's E-rings here as well. So I went ahead and I did these 3 already, and there's actually also one here you can see on the hub. There's only 2 set screws to get the wheel off, but that was the only way I could find to really get into this thing. But and then I'll put that back on and tighten those up. But anyway, folks, really important thing overall to get all the E-rings on there, because there's just a ton of them on this thing, and especially with something like this nose gear. You know, if you lose this one, that axle is going to come out. You're going to lose the wheel. If you lose one of these, you're going to lose that axle shaft, and the gear will come apart. So make sure you use your foam tack once again on all your E-rings for security. Okay guys, here is the completed SU-30 with the missiles taken off of it, because I want to show you guys a few more details, mostly the speed brake and the landing gear. The landing gear is very impressive, and I want to cycle it for you so you guys can see it. Being able to take this nose cone off is pretty awesome, and being able to get the tail cone off is awesome too, because if you guys can do this, I highly recommend doing it, because this plane is so big that just being able to take anything off of it just makes it much easier to transport it, so without snagging some things. So anyway, as we get a little closer here, we can go ahead and check out the speed brake here. It just works off the flap switch, because we don't have flaps on this thing, folks. Using the speed brake will really help you slow this thing down a little bit when you're maneuvering, or when you're landing the airplane especially. So you can see the single actuator in there and how nicely that works. Pretty darn slick, I think. Anyway, as we get this thing rolled upside down, check out the detail on this thing. Look at that nose gear, folks. If you pull some pictures on Google on the SU-30 or SU-27, you'll see that this configuration is correct. There's 3 lights on the nose gear of this thing. It also has this spray diverter. I think this is, I'm guessing this is a spray, snow, or fog diverter, so when you're taking off on the full scale airplane anyway, when you're taking off it prevents fog and water from going into the intakes, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it's for, but what a nice detail they added to this thing. The compression is simply awesome, and this strut back here, folks, this thing is functional. When you impact this on a landing, especially on grass, that supports it because there's this big, right down here, this big plastic doubler here that this strut is attached to, and it's really a tough strut, so the actual compression is what takes the abuse, not the main landing gear mount or whatever. It really transfers a lot of load over there. Also, look at the main landing gear and the doors. Look how nice those doors are. Let's take a look at the other one. You can see how nicely these things rotate and go up there beautifully, which I'm going to show you. And you can see right here the compression. Look at the compression on that gear. So very nice for absorbing shock. And as we extend out, I'm going to go ahead and retract the gear for you. Watch how nicely these main gear kind of retract. They rotate, articulate, go up into the well, and the doors close. Check this out. And look at those doors close. Outstanding. Look how streamlined they are. Outstanding job that Horizon did. Look how clean those are. Look at the other one, how streamlined everything is. The rotation of those gear going up in there are simply awesome. Of course, the nose strut is nice and clean too. So I am blown away by how nicely these retracts extend and retract. So here we go. We'll get them out. Watch that rotation. Look how nice that is. You gotta give Horizon credit for building just such a beautiful model. So let me roll this baby back over. We'll give it a little suspension try test here. You can see how nicely it takes the abuse. It has lots of nice compression all the way around. It's simply awesome. And if you guys can do it, I highly recommend making this magnetic. Just getting anything off this airplane and reducing its size easily really helps out with maneuvering the plane and just transporting it around in general without snagging things that are sticking out. So anyway, guys, that pretty much concludes this video. One awesome jet. Stay tuned for the flight demos that we're going to have out on this thing. They'll be on RCINFORMER as we put them out. We'll do grass, we'll do pavement, with missiles, without missiles, and those will be in the upper right-hand corner of all of our videos. Again, that card, if you click on that now, even while we're talking, it won't stop anything. You drop down that box, again, it'll lead you to the next video. We can store as many as 5 in that drop-down window for you guys to see. And I'm trying to make this as easy as I can for you guys, so you have access to the videos quicker without having to go, to the end screen or to the channel and search for it. Every video that we put out, we're going to put those cards there so you can get to associated videos that way. So anyway, guys, another thing to note, again, we are on Instagram and Twitter. We're making a real conscious effort, folks, to get out as many postings as we can. In fact, we're putting out postings daily on Instagram. So check it out. We're going to have cool pictures of stuff from the past and new stuff we're doing as we're out in the field every day. We're taking pictures and putting that stuff up there for you guys. So again, check the description below. Our Instagram and Twitter accounts are right there for you guys to check out. And if you guys want to support us, if you guys choose to get one of these, if you use our link below at no extra cost to you guys, if you click our link, it'll take you to Horizon to the product page. If you put it in your cart and buy one, that supports our channel, guys. And again, it's no extra cost to you. It just helps us out. We do appreciate the support, guys. Otherwise, you guys can like, subscribe. It really helps us out, especially when you guys share our videos around. Me and Steve try to put out the best info we can for everybody and the highest quality content we can. So if you guys share our videos around, man, that really helps support our channel, and we do appreciate that. Otherwise, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell that's in the lower right-hand corner. It's actually below the video. That bell will let you know when new videos are coming out. It'll advise you right away. You guys will be the first ones to get it. So anyway, guys, we do appreciate it. Check this out, the E-flite SU-30 from Horizon Hobby. Awesome airplane. This is a plane you'll see me with at events to come. When I go somewhere, this is going with me because it is just that awesome, folks. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate watching RC Informer. As always, folks, we'll see you next time. Outstanding. Look at this thing. Speed brake and everything.